very happy to have with us today Janel Anderson. Please help me greet her.
Thank you, Laura. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. As Laura mentioned, I am a community member both in South Minneapolis and in this community. And there's a little story behind that. I met Teresa Rose at a National Speakers Association event in November of last year. And my son Andrew, who is here, Andrew and I had been talking for a very, very long time about doing a spirituality sort of exploration and experiment in South Minneapolis to find kind of a spiritual home, or at least to explore different spiritual homes. And this was something that lived in talk only, not in the real world. And he can vouch for me. We'd been talking about doing this for years. And on December 31st of last year, we were driving through the neighborhood. This was just a couple of weeks after I met Teresa. We were driving through the neighborhood, cutting across town to get home, and we were at the stop sign across the street, and I saw the marquee, and it said, Teresa Rose was the speaker. And I said, Andrew, I know her. Let's go to that. It's that's a spirituality community. Let's go. It's part of what we are kind of up to, or at least in talk only. So we came the next morning, and we just had a great time. And instead of exploring other spirituality communities, we just keep coming back here. We come as our schedule allows, which is about twice a month. And so if I look familiar to you, that's why you have seen me here. And usually I'm not dressed up nice. I have a 3-year-old in tow, my 13-year-old, and dropping her off at Miss Allison's program downstairs, which she absolutely adores, and then coming for the service. So it's absolutely my delight to be a contribution to this community in addition to being a member to this community. And as was alluded to in my introduction, I do a variety of things in my professional life, and I want to tell you a little bit more about them and a little bit about the larger enterprise I'm up to in doing them. So I am a coach. I'm a certified Martha Beck life coach. If you're familiar with the coaching world, Martha Beck is the coach on, she has a column in the O magazine, and she used to be on Oprah's show quite a number of times. She still contributes to things that are on Oprah's network now. And in my coaching, what I do with people I work with executives, I also work with people who are in job transition, and I work around finding meaning in work and making it such that your work fuels your life and that your work gives you life rather than becoming your life. In my consulting and corporate training world, I do a couple of workshops. One is called Mastering Difficult Discussions Without Drama, Danger, or Damage. And another one is called Coaching Skills for Managers. And in both of those things, I am trying to create a workplace that's more engaged, more respectful of the personal relationships, the interpersonal relationships that happen at work. And in my public speaking, I'm taking messages like the one I'm sharing today, Our Words Create Worlds. And in all three of those capacities, what I'm up to is trying to raise the vibrational energy on the planet. And what does that really mean? Well, let me give you an example. If you've ever been to San Francisco, the sea lions, you've maybe seen the sea lions out in the San Francisco Bay. They swim around and they crawl up on those floating docks and they sun themselves for a while. Animals are a perfect representation of higher vibrational energy. So when the sea lion climbs up on the dock and suns herself or suns himself for a while and then hops back in, swims around, plays a little bit, climbs back up on the dock, when that sea lion is laying on the dock, the sea lion is not thinking, oh, I should be on the treadmill. I'm such a lazy sea lion. I'm not getting anything done. Right? The sea lion's not doing any of that. Everything is entirely in sync. All of the vibrational energy of that sea lion is headed in the same direction. Humans, on the other hand, are not always so aligned. Our spirit, our thoughts, and our deeds are not always aligned in the same way the animal kingdom is. And so what I'm trying to do in my larger enterprise is raise that vibrational energy so that our spirit, our thoughts, our words, our actions are all consistent and are all aligned. And so what I'm up to today, right here, is to raise the vibrational energy. And so as I chose my topic about how our words create worlds, I had that in mind.
And as we get started this morning, I'd like to first lead us through a meditation to just get really grounded, connected with Spirit, and in a place where you can really raise your vibrational energy. So I invite you to put your feet on the floor, get in a place where you can take some nice deep breaths, lower your gaze or close your eyes, whichever feels more comfortable to you. And I want to offer up the surface of the ocean as a metaphor for your life. And for some of you, that might be a calm, serene ocean, whatever's going on in your world right now. For others of you, it might feel a lot more like Hurricane Isaac or the remnants of Hurricane Isaac, with tumultuousness and all kinds of things boiling and broiling on the top of the ocean. But wherever your life is right now, I'd like you to use that surface of the ocean as a metaphor and think of yourself as an anchor. And as an anchor, you're slowly dropping below the surface of that ocean. You get a couple feet below the surface, and you can still feel the waves on top or whatever's going on top. The sounds are still there. And as you sink lower and lower, the sounds get quieter and quieter. Now you're 10 feet below, you're 20 feet below. Everything that's happening on the surface of the ocean is getting quieter and quieter. Now you're 100 feet below, 200 feet below. It's getting very quiet and very still. You're several hundred feet below, and several hundred feet below, 1,000 feet below, 2,000, 3,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. And very softly, very gently, you as that anchor land gently in the sand. And we're all there with you. We might not be right next to you. We might be thousands of feet away, also on the surface of the ocean. But the spirit, the vibration, down there on the surface, on the bottom of the ocean floor, connects us. The vibration travels and travels, and we feel connected. In this place, at the bottom of the ocean's floor, where we're all connected, I invite you to set an intention for the morning. Perhaps your intention is connected to surrender, the theme for the month. Perhaps there's something you've been resisting. Take this time to set an intention to give yourself up to it, to surrender to it, to melt into it. Let's set an intention for the morning. When you're ready, you can come back up to the surface, and we'll create this surface here as nice and calm for us to be in today. As I was preparing this talk, one of the things I noticed going around on Twitter was the following quote from Joel Osteen. "You cannot talk defeat and expect to have victory. Send your words out in the direction you want your life to go." And I thought, how perfect for a spiritual leader to be sending that message the very week and have it being picked up and repeated by all kinds of people across Twitter, the very week that I'm to give this talk. Send your words in the direction you want your life to go. Similar to what I put in my talk description is, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. So we need to be careful with our words so that we're asking for the kinds of things that we really want to draw into our lives. And what we're looking at, or what I'm going to be talking about this morning, is the nature of self-talk. So not so much the things that we're putting out, but you can imagine how the same message translates into the words that we're putting out into the world. But I'm going to be focusing on the words that are going through our head at any given moment. And I'd like to start by calling on one of the Toltec traditions. In the Toltec traditions, there are four main principles driving that ancient way of life. And the first one is, be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. So as we look at what does that mean, be impeccable with your word, I'd like to start with word. Well, word shows up, the word shows up over and over in all religious doctrines, in all types of scriptures and spiritual readings. So we know the word in that sense. But I also want to talk about the word as it relates to the words we use, because as you'll see, those two are not so far apart. So first of all, word. What is a word? Well, a word is a symbol that refers to something. Imagine there was a table in front of me, say 3 feet by 4 feet, maybe similar to the table you ate breakfast around this morning. Just a simple wooden table, 4 legs, nothing special about it. We use the symbol table to refer to that table. So then that becomes the referent object, the thing the word refers to, right? And we have some agreement that when we use the word table, we mean something that looks like that. Now, if it is set with an opulent tablecloth, beautiful place settings, nice stemware, we'd call it a dining table, maybe even the Thanksgiving table. If all those things were gone and instead it had on it a laptop computer, a pile of papers, and a cell phone, we'd call it a desk. If it had a blanket thrown over it and my 3-year-old underneath it, it's now become a fort. If it's tipped upside down and my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old are sitting in it doing this, it has now become a boat. The referent object, the atoms and molecules, have not changed. They're still arranged the same. But by the power of our word, we create it to be something different. Even if it is that same table sitting there without my laptop computer and all those other things on it, if I refer to it as my desk, your mind automatically puts those things there. If I refer to it as a fort, which I did, you cast the blanket over it. Maybe for some of you it was a quilt, maybe for some of you it was a bed sheet, maybe it had pillows underneath, however you created it, but you created it in your mind's eye to match what you think of fort, even though the table is still the table. You created it. We create things, we bring things to life with the words that we choose to name them by. So if we label our day as a bad hair day, it shows up for us as a bad hair day throughout our entire day. If we choose our day as a delightful day, we're going to have a delightful day in spite of the bad hair. So how we choose our words, how we create our words, is how we create our worlds. So that is the word, the symbol that refers to something. Maybe it's a physical object, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's a way of being, or how we feel in any given moment. But that is the word. Now, in the Toltec tradition, be impeccable with your word. We've examined word. But what does it mean to be impeccable? Well, in the Toltec tradition, and match it right along with our current dictionary, you look it up, the second meaning of impeccable is to be without sin, or to be above sin. So what does it mean to be above sin or without sin in our word? When we think about sin, the nature of sin, means to go against or to transgress against a deity. From a spiritual sense, those of us who are here can see ourselves in Spirit, Universe, God, that we are the manifestation of Spirit, Universe, God. And so to transgress against Spirit, Universe, God in our word is to transgress against our own self, our own deity, Spirit, Universe, God, as it lives in all of us. So be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word as it relates to yourself. Be above sin against yourself with your word. My question to you this morning is, are you being impeccable with your word to yourself? What kinds of self-talk are going through your mind at any given moment of the day that are not impeccable? Where are you sinning against yourself, and in a greater sense, sinning against the deity that lives within you in your word? So where is that self-talk taking you, and what is that bringing you into your world? So I'll give you a couple of examples. First of all, the self-talk that I'm talking about isn't the kind that says, you can do this, you got this one, you got this in the bag. It's not that self-talk. It's the self-talk that berates us, that drags us down, that dogs our confidence. That's the negative self-talk to which I'm referring this morning. That other self-talk that builds us up, we need that. We need more of that. And I want to talk about a way to really transform that self-talk that drags us down and berates us and robs us of our confidence into the kind of self-talk that is really going to lift us up and raise the vibrational energy of the universe. So, in the coaching world, we make a distinction between two kinds of pain, dirty pain and clean pain. I'll give you an example here. Imagine you wake up in the middle of the night, you're thirsty, you're going into your kitchen to get a glass of water, and on your way, you accidentally stub your toe on your kitchen table. And maybe you stub it really bad. Ouch, it hurts, you're hopping around. Oh, now I've got myself all woken up. Okay, you go get yourself a drink of water. In that moment that your toe hurts, that is clean pain. It hurts. You are truly experiencing pain in that moment. You get your drink of water, you go back to sleep. In the morning, if you get up and you walk through the kitchen, you spot that table and you go, oh, I stubbed my toe. How could I be so clumsy? I'm such a klutz. I'm so awful. Then I stayed up 3 hours thinking about how I stubbed my toe and everything else that was going wrong in my life. That's dirty pain. The pain of the stubbing of the toe happened long ago, but if you are consciously reliving it and re-causing yourself the pain, even though the thing that happened that was painful is in the past, it's dirty pain. And that's the kind of thought that drags down your vibrational energy. Maybe it's not a toe stub. Maybe it was something that happened at work. Maybe you were giving a presentation to a really important group and you left out some key important facts, or worse yet, you got something wrong, right? Then you were suffering the pain of embarrassment. And it probably hurt in that moment. It really hurt. It really felt embarrassing, and that was clean pain. It's okay to experience that clean pain and let it move through us. It moves through us actually rather quickly when we really let ourselves experience pain. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're lying awake thinking about all the consequences and how you should have, you could have, you would have, had this gone differently, you wouldn't have forgotten that fact, and so on, and if that's keeping you awake in the middle of the night, that's dirty pain. You can let that go. But it's those kinds of thoughts, that kind of self-talk that shows up in dirty pain that I'm talking about. And I want to share now a quote that really relates to this, because when we are experiencing that dirty pain or that negative self-talk, we're labeling ourselves in a certain way. We are making judgments against ourselves. And so I'd like to share something from the I Am discourses. And this is the Ascended Master Saint Germain, who says, and I quote, "The natural tendency of life is love, peace, beauty, harmony, and opulence. For life cares not who uses it, but is constantly surging to pour out more of its perfection into us, always with that lifting process which is ever inherent within itself. I am. I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is for students with sincere interest who do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. When you say and feel, I am, you release the spring of eternal everlasting life to flow on its way unmolested. In other words, you open wide the door to its natural flow. When you say, I am not, you shut the door in the face of that mighty energy. So when we say, I am not, I cannot, I have not, we're throttling the spirit of our own divinity. We're throttling God, universe, spirit itself. And usually at the genesis of that negative self-talk that's going through our head is, I am not enough, I am not good enough, I am not worthy, I am not something, I am not is at the heart of it. And we heard about worthiness last week from Tim, and we heard about surrendering to our own sense of worthiness. And that's what it takes to turn it around. That's what it takes to turn around that sense of what we are not into something more powerful that we can live into. I want to give you an example, share an example with you of how this showed up for me a couple of years ago. My now 3-year-old daughter was an infant. My husband was training for the Chicago Marathon, and my maternity leave felt like a thing of the distant past. And so we had a very, very busy life. Almost every moment was scheduled. And I'd made a very specific request of my husband. I really want to go to a yoga class on Saturday morning. So he had rearranged his running schedule so that he could watch the baby. And we had it all perfectly choreographed. Except that I didn't leave the house exactly when I should have left the house to get to the yoga studio. I dawdled a little bit. And as I was leaving, I thought, should I walk? It's only 6 blocks away. It's a beautiful fall morning. I'd really like to walk. Maybe I should take the car, because if I take the car, then I'll be on time. So I went back and forth for a moment, and I thought, well, I'm wasting time here just thinking about it. So I grabbed my yoga mat, and I trucked over to my neighborhood yoga studio. Now, this is a very small studio, and the person who checks you in at the front also then joins the class. He or she locks the front door and joins the class. So there's no such thing as latecomers at this yoga studio. And so, knowing that, I walked over there as fast as I could. It's one of the things I love about that yoga studio, because there are no latecomers. So, as you might guess, even though I cut across several parking lots of a couple of businesses to get there faster, when I got there and pulled on the door, it was locked. And I could see inside. The reception area was empty. Everybody was already in the studio. And so I turned, I started home much slower and walked towards my house. I was about 3 blocks into the 6-block walk when I actually caught wind of the self-talk that was going through my head. And what the self-talk was literally stopped me in my tracks. I was standing in the middle of an intersection because I couldn't believe what was going through my head. What I was hearing in my head was, my life sucks. My life sucks. I don't get enough sleep at night, this, that. I was just pulling out the Library of Congress card catalog of all the facts of why my life sucked. And I stood there recognizing this self-talk, and I actually started laughing because my life didn't suck. And so I was standing in the middle of an intersection. It was a quiet Saturday morning, no cars were coming. So I just stood there in the intersection in South Minneapolis neighborhood, very much like this one. I stood there laughing at my own self-talk, how I was telling myself that my life sucked. And then I very intentionally started to make a list of the facts that were contrary to that. I had an amazing husband who loved me very much. I had a newborn baby. I had an amazing 10-year-old. We lived in a great neighborhood. I had a good job, on and on and on and on, right? There was a lot of evidence to support the fact that my life did not suck. But over the course of the next few weeks, it kept showing up. It would show up. It was a really little insidious voice that showed up every time the tiniest little thing did not go my way. So I'm on my way to work, and I just miss a green light. It turns yellow. The car in front of me doesn't go through. I'm at a red light. My life sucks. The person in the grocery store ahead of me doesn't quite have enough money to pay for the things they're buying for and has to put something back, so it holds me up. My life sucks. Everywhere, it just kept showing up over and over and over. And so, I have a PhD, I study this stuff, I got really interested in what's going on here. So I did some research into it. The neural pathways that say, my life sucks, were like as deep as the Grand Canyon. Because I had been saying that, and my self-talk had been repeating that for years. And what it takes to go in and reroute the Grand Canyon is pretty big. It takes something to be consciously aware of the self-talk that goes against your own divinity, that goes against your own spirit, your own God universe. And so it became a little game of mine to replace "my life sucks" with something that was, first of all, more true, and then also more powerful. And that's when I got introduced to the I Am discourses, which I quoted from earlier. And all throughout the I Am discourses, the Ascended Master Saint Germain shows how I am, the phrase I am, has shown up in religious teachings. And you can think of it from your own religious body of knowledge. But I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light. I am shows up over and over and over in religious teachings. When we take ourselves to be that one small sliver of divinity and apply I am, rather than I am not, rather than I have not, I will not, rather than throttling the divinity, what the Ascended Master Saint Germain says is, he says, stop using the wrong expressions of your divinity. Stop using the wrong expressions of your divinity. So stop using those "I am not worthy," "I do not have enough," one of my favorites, this comes up in my coaching a lot, "I'm too busy." I'm too busy. How many of us say "I'm too busy"? You're probably guilty of that, yeah? I'm too busy. Okay, so when we say "I'm too busy," it creates us as too busy. From a law of attraction standpoint, what we're doing is we're putting out "I am too busy" to the universe so that the universe can give us back more busyness and keep us really busy, because that's what we're telling universe, I am too busy. Then universe has no choice but to deliver things that will make your life busy. So what I'd like you to do is to think of something where you are going against your own divinity. Some small piece of self-talk, it doesn't have to be huge, but some small piece of self-talk where you recognize you are going against your own divinity. And I'd like you to turn it around. So I'm going to give you just a moment to think of something, and then I'm going to have you talk with someone else to find some strategies to turn it around. But so give you just a minute to think of one. And if you're sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, I can't even think of one," then that's it. You just found it. Okay, so if you've got one, I'd like you to turn to someone who's sitting near you, share with them what it is, and then share with them what you're going to do to turn it around. And I'll share with you first what I did to turn around "my life sucks." Okay? And it took me a while, but what I got to first was "I'm fortunate." So when you come up with a turnaround or a replacement thought for it, I want you to very specifically craft it as beginning with "I am." Okay? To really take on the power of thousands of years of religious teaching that says when we center ourselves around "I am" as divinity, powerful things can happen. So first I came up with "I am fortunate." I am fortunate. Because this was certainly true. All of these wonderful things in my life did make me feel very fortunate. But what became a little bit more fun for me to say and a little bit more empowering for me is "I am delighted." I am delighted. So as you craft it, make sure that it's fun to say, because you're rerouting the Grand Canyon here, folks. The more fun it is to take a different path, because what happens is, as those new neural pathways get developed, much like copper wire around a telephone wire, like that copper wire goes around, sheathing gets created every time you say the new thought to yourself, every time you say the new message. Another round of sheathing is there to protect it, building it as deep as the Grand Canyon. So it has to be fun to say, because if it's not fun to say, you'll forget to do it, that stoplight will come up and you'll still have, "my life sucks," or whatever it is for you going through your mind. So make sure it's fun to say. So take a minute now, share what you've got with someone next to you. First of all, what that limiting belief, what that negative self-talk is, and then what you're going to do to turn it around, beginning with "I am." Back. I know. You guys must have had some good stuff to share. There's a lot of chatter. It's good, good. What you've just done is you've started to be more impeccable with your word. You found a place where you could be more impeccable with your word, and you shone a light on your own divinity in recreating it as I am fortunate. I am delighted. Anybody have a good one they wanted to share? Yeah.
I am blissfully in balance.
I am blissfully in balance. That sounds way more powerful than I am busy, I'm too busy, or whatever might have come before it. I am blissfully in balance. Awesome. Anyone else?
My self-talk, I have to let what floats to the top of 100 things, but I am exhausted, or I am tired. Replacing that with I am energized, I am full.
Awesome. Yeah. And just even from a law of attraction standpoint, what that's going to bring into your life, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely amazing. In my coaching, this comes up all the time, and I'll share with you a story about someone I was coaching. He came to me because he couldn't get a job in his chosen career. So he'd worked as an engineer for 8 years, and then decided that engineering wasn't quite right for him. There were some things about it he liked, and there were some things about it that he just really didn't like. So he went back to school. He got another bachelor's degree. And now with this new bachelor's degree in hand, he thought everything was going to be better. Everything was going to be rosy. So his wife got a transfer to Seattle, where his new degree was going to be even more powerful than ever. And off they moved to Seattle, and 4 years pass. And he doesn't get a job in his chosen career. So he calls me up to coach, and he's sort of like, I'm at a dead end. He's really frustrated. And talk about vibrational energy being like way down here. It was pretty low. And so his story went, I got this degree, and I thought it was going to lead to this great job, and I keep applying, and I go to the networking events in the field, and nothing's coming through. So I said, well, let's say his name is Scott. So I said, well, Scott, tell me about what you like to do for fun. And he said, oh, well, we're talking about getting a job here. What do you mean what I like to do for fun? I said, well, you called me for a reason. I'm very much of the mind that in order for us to enjoy our work, we have to find some meaning in it. And for us to find meaning in our work, it has to be connected with something that delights us in some way. And that's how we find our contribution back. So he was really stuck about what gave him joy and what he liked to do. So I said, well, okay, think back. Maybe you have to go all the way back to your childhood. But what was something that you liked to do where you just really lost track of time? And he thought for a while. He was still kind of stuck. And I said, what is it? Did you like to climb trees? Did you like to read books? What? Did you ride your bicycle? What is it? So he said, well, I don't actually have something from then, but when I was getting that other 4-year degree, I took a class in digital photography, and I got reconnected with taking pictures, and I just love to take pictures. I could go out with my camera and take pictures all day. So at the time, he was bartending to make a living and to contribute to his family, and he told me about bartending, and he said, well, bartending, it's not a real job, he said, which I would disagree with, but it's not a real job, but I make really good money, and I work at this kind of upscale bar, so the clientele who come in are really nice people, and I never have to deal with bar fights or anything ugly like that. They're just wonderful people, and I have these great conversations with them, and I make really good tips. I said, okay. You have these great conversations with people that generate really good tips. You love to take pictures and be out with your camera. And the job that we were talking about, the job that you went back for that other 4-year degree for, would leave you in a cubicle interviewing engineers and then going back and writing up technical documentation all day. I said, tell me where I'm wrong, but I think you would actually hate that job. He was silent for a minute, and then he burst out laughing, and he goes, you're right. That's why I'm not getting a job. And I said, yeah, you're not getting a job because it entirely goes against the grain of who you are, of what your vibrational energy in this world is, and the contribution you were meant to be in this world. So what we created for him was a strategic plan where he was slowly going to bring the money and the time that he was putting into bartending down while he brought the money that he was putting into photography, editing, writing, the other things that gave him energy up over a 2-year period. So it was going to be a long, gradual stepping out of one career and stepping into another. Now, it's actually proceeding a lot faster than that, but he was being very conservative in creating this plan. I knew I was going to use his example in my talk today, so I emailed him earlier in the week, and I said, "Hey, Scott, how's it going?" And all he wrote back was, "It's awesome. There's so much to do." He's just so lit up with the life that he's creating for himself now that he's shifted his vibrational energy around how he wants to create his work and his professional life and his income. One other piece that's really notable about this is that one of the things he told me in our first coaching conversation is, "I love my wife dearly, and I know she's incredibly frustrated with me right now because all I can do is complain about how I can't get a job in this field. And I really want to fix that." And I said, "Well, we can't really fix that. But when we fix whatever else is going on, when we, find a way through this for you, that will just sort of take care of itself." And so along the way, he shared with me at different times how the relationship with his wife was changing and how the energy in their whole house was shifting. So from a vibrational energy standpoint, the conversations and the breakthroughs that he had not only raised his own vibrational energy, but it lifted up the vibrational energy of that entire household. That's how powerful this stuff is. Now, with the turnaround that you just came up with, in terms of your new I am discourse, and that new self-talk message that you're taking out into the world, we can have a really powerful impact. I want to give one little caveat before I talk more about that impact, though. There may be some of you who are sitting there thinking, what does she mean, self-talk, and how is that any different from thinking? Because I think a lot. And that's not self-talk. I was just thinking, right? So here's the difference between self-talk and thinking. Imagine you're driving down 35W and you're going somewhere to run an errand. And when you get to the place where you were going to take the exit is closed. And so you have to find a different way to get to where you were going. If your brain goes, I guess I'll go down to 66th and I'll take a right and I'll go over to Penn Avenue and then I'll take another right and then I'll come up and get at it that way. That's thinking. Okay? If your brain goes like this, that exit was closed and I should have known that because I came down here the other day. I went right past this exit when I was on my way to 494. I should have known this exit was closed. What am I? I'm such an idiot. I should have known this exit was closed. That's self-talk. That's not thinking. Okay? So just so we're clear, there's a distinction. When you're coming up with ideas, when when your brain is being constructive in building something, that's thinking. When you're berating yourself, that's self-talk. Okay, so how can we use this to raise the vibrational energy of the planet even beyond what just happened here? Because there are about 50 people in the room. If each of you leave with a new I am discourse for you to live into that replaces some other Grand Canyon type chasm that was bringing you down and going against your vibrational energy, then we've done something. But if each of you has a conversation with someone who wasn't here about what we talked about, and you share with them your own Grand Canyon and how you're turning it around, or if it doesn't feel right to share that with them, share my story. Yeah, the speaker said her life sucked. Share my story with them. Share the story of the person that you talked to today with them so that they can get the benefit of this. And through the ripple effect, we will raise the vibrational energy on this planet far more than we thought we could. So I want to leave you with a quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She says, "People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when the darkness sets in, their beauty is revealed only if there is a light lit within." Your I am discourse is your light lit within.